What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rascal Reacts, where you ask for my 2 cents and I'll give you a nickel. So this guy, now this may turn out to be one of my most foolish reactions, depending on how long this individual is incarcerated and what kind of resources he has once he gets deported back to Morocco. But nonetheless, it's a story, and I'm just fascinated by the whole thing. Right? It kind of checks all the boxes. So this dude, Idriss Qibba, right? He has this website. That's his website up there now, unlockedforlife.com. And he was on No Jumper, right? About 6 months ago. He did an interview over there and he got well over 300,000 views, right? And so in this interview, he talks about how he has developed an industry of locking and unlocking people's social media accounts, right? And clearly he was very proud of this interview because it's at the very top of his website. And these are the services that he would offer. I am not advertising for these people. I do not suggest going to this website. I definitely don't suggest clicking on any links on the website. But just to show you, right? So all this stuff will very much get you banned from these platforms. So I don't advise anybody to do it. But if you wanted to buy followers, which is something I've heard about for a long time, you could do that. Team Unlocked, right? He's very Wes Watson-esque in this, which is ironic because him and Wes Watson have been going back and forth for a long time too. And it is said that this is the individual or his people may be behind Wes Watson getting swatted over and over in Florida. But nonetheless, Team Unlocked, right? $7,500 to join forever. Make internet money from your phone. And essentially then it's a Ponzi thing, right? You're paying him to then sell his services, but at, whatever your marked up price is to people, and he says that he has hundreds of people currently enrolled at $7,500 a pop, right? And Telegram services, because he says that supposedly there's all kinds of illegal activity happening on Telegram. I don't know anything about that. I don't know that to be true, but that's what this dude says. And then DM to get your snapback, your grams, your telegrams, the whole nine, right? So you could pay him and get a fabulous website just like this too, right? So anyway, he does this interview and describes. I just learned of this weekend. I don't watch a lot of No Jumper, but he describes again a whole business that I didn't even know really existed. And he talks about how if he never did another thing, he would make, or he makes over $600,000 a month, right? A month, $500,000 a month by people paying him to not lock their accounts, right? Fees, basically. Fees to keep accounts locked for people that they don't like, fees to not get their accounts locked and all that shit. And he has this whole rags to riches story, right? He was a homeless dude that was sleeping in his car, paying airport, parking fees to have a place to crash, that then had one of his accounts hacked or something. So he started looking into it and discovered this whole industry, and he flew overseas and went to hacker cafes and then he saw it as a public service because he was targeting a lot of trappers, right? A lot of people that supposedly use social media to make illegal money. So those become easy targets, right? Because they're not going to call the cops. They got their own illegal business, and there's a lot of cash that moves around. But he just diarrheaed him out, just says it all in this interview, right? And Adam pushes back on some stuff like, hey man, don't you think it's pretty crappy for you to, for example, post somebody's address online and then turn around and charge them for you to take it down, right? Like you didn't have nothing to do with them before. They didn't do anything wrong to you. And he's like, oh, well, it is what it is. If I didn't do it, somebody else would do it. And the same narrative and the same logic, right, for lack of a better term, that a lot of people who are engaged in immoral activities tell themselves, right? But he goes on there and says everything. And a lot a lot of times you hear people say like, "Oh man, no jumpers the feds and Vlad TV's the feds," because of the stuff that some people talk about on those platforms. I don't subscribe to that theory because they ask questions, right? Just like anybody else. I've had a lot of conversations with people on my platform, right on the Homie Hangout, more so than here, but uh, and I ask some questions. There's some questions I don't ask because I just find that they would be disrespectful, or that's getting into stuff that I don't really want to know about or hear about. But everybody has their own approach, and each individual needs to be responsible and should have knowledge of the consequences of what they say. So, do folks go on these platforms and talk too much? Sure. Rarely does anything come of it, right? Keefy D is a notable exception because he just wouldn't shut the fuck up, right? Talking about his knowledge and participation in crimes for which there's no statute of limitations. Uh, this guy is like a close second, though, in terms of just like America's Dumbest Criminals type stuff. So he goes on here 6 months ago. He does this interview. The interview does numbers. He probably gets a lot of business from it, right? During the interview on No Jumper, he's like, "Hey, if you just DM me and tell me that you're a No Jumper fan, then I'll, look out for you for free." And kind of a pompous dude, right? And talks about how he has to ride with security and all this different stuff, So now, why is this coming out now, right? This was 6 months ago. It is coming out now because, voila, FBI arrests Las Vegas man for alleged social media extortion scheme. That sounds kind of like what we were just talking about. The FBI has apprehended, I'm not going to read this whole article, don't worry, but the FBI has apprehended a Las Vegas resident, Idriss Qibba, for allegedly orchestrating an extortion and threat operation targeting customers and Instagram influencers through his online business, unlockedforlife.com. Oh, that's this guy. Wow, who knew? So he operates under the alias Dani and Unlocked. He's a Moroccan national legally residing in the United States, though he is not a U.S. citizen. According to the feds, he has threatened to flee to Morocco if he sensed any law enforcement pressure or if he was arrested and subsequently released on bail, claiming he would live like a king there. So shockingly, when he was arrested, he was denied bail. I mean, come on, Holmes. And this last little part I'll get to, right? The investigation into his activities revealed a sophisticated extortion scheme, which he openly discussed during a podcast in January. On the No Jumper podcast, this one right here, that he brags about right here, Quibba boasted about earning more than $600,000 a month through his website by locking victims out of their social media accounts and charging them to regain access. His website, unlockedforlife.com, advertised services that included banning or unbanning accounts on platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, Telegram, and TikTok, as well as selling digital tracking and personal information. So it goes on to say, man, that there's several unnamed celebrities and influencers have been identified in court documents, blah, 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 right? And up to and including his Las Vegas landlord and some Beverly Hills dentist. And so this dude just got in a world of trouble, right? So he's being charged with, he's got 2 counts. Let's go down here. Been charged with 2 federal counts of interstate communications. Judge Maximiliano Covillier III, well, that's a hell of a name, ain't it? Has ordered him be detained pending trial. Oh, I wonder why. Underscoring the seriousness of the charges and the potential flight risk he poses. So he embarrassed some big name people, right? It's crazy. He's been going back and forth with Wes Watson for a long time, apparently. Saying that he's a fraud, which is true, right? Wes Watson's whole narrative about his prison time and how prison works and everything else is just 100% hogwash, right? But he has built himself into a brand, and made a shit ton of money doing it, right? This dude, and one of Wes Watson's biggest revenue streams are people who pay to be a part of his program, right? This dude, same thing. People pay to be a part of his program. Like, he took a play out of his paybook. It's like 2 self-absorbed, narcissistic people in a pissing contest, um, and it, it's just silly. It's silly. So that he's gonna be in trouble. I don't know how much time he's facing. Maybe shoot over to the Chad Marks channel, Blood on the Razor Wire. Ask him. He's kind of the resident YouTube expert when it comes to federal laws and that kind of stuff. I don't imagine he's gonna get something crazy, right? But who knows? And when you piss off wealthy people that have resources and well-connected people, then sometimes your punishment is a little more severe than if you're targeting others. So if he was just going after trappers and that kind of stuff, his life would be in danger, but his freedom probably wouldn't. But you start going after celebrities, there's court documents, there's filings, there's restraining orders against him. So I don't think it's entirely this interview, right? Clearly, people have gone to law enforcement to say, hey, this fool's, committing crimes against me, right? By extorting me or whatever he was doing. But this interview certainly helped. And it helped to such a degree that the feds name dropped No Jumper and pointed that out, right? So anyways, this will probably get picked up by other channels, at some point in the near future. I don't do a whole lot of like No Jumper reaction type stuff, but this just baffled me. I stumbled across it this weekend, and like I said, the more I looked into it, the more I was like, this is wild. So there you have it, man. If you're going to be committing crimes, you probably do not want to go on podcasts. If you are going to go on podcasts, you probably don't want to admit to the crimes that you're committing. Setting up a website, advertising extortion services is also probably not a genius move. And, he said in the interview that a big part of how he's been able to do this stuff is that these companies use third-party contractors to, to ban accounts or unban accounts or whatever. And so you tap in with them and, now you got the power, right? And he mentioned Twitter, and who knows if half the stuff this dude is saying is true or not, right? But he referenced Twitter as one example where he used to be able to go in there and manipulate that system. But then when Elon Musk took over and fired a whole bunch of employees, he happened to fire this dude's plugs. And so all of a sudden, overnight, he was now unable to influence anything in the Twitter platform. So are we going to see other social media companies go that route? He seems to think not, because the advertiser money from people running scams on social media platforms is so good that they have an incentive to complain about it, but also turn a blind eye. We're going to see how true all that stuff is, though, because now he's arrested, and he's likely going to do some time, and also likely lose money, because what's not referenced in here is the IRS, right? So extorting people is one thing, but then also claiming to have all of these resources and all of this money, and you're probably not filing your taxes in an entirely ethical way. We'll see. But I suspect that at some point in the future, he will in fact be in Morocco. I don't know that he'll be living like a king. Kind of remains to be seen. But anyways, man, you asked for my 2 cents. I'll give you a nickel, and stay tuned. Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Right? Yeah, what are your thoughts? This is crazy.